Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur's Kitchen. This is another live show on a Friday night. I'm looking forward to my tonight's guest because she's not only an expert in so many different levels, but also a dear, dear friend. Please welcome with me, Karen Kusch. Karen, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you, Seda, on a Friday night at bedtime?
Excellent, excellent. You know, being here with you is the most amazing thing. So it's really, really nice. And thank you so much for taking the time. As you just mentioned, usually for us ladies, this is already bedtime.
No problem.
Oh, well, Karen, I mean, right now, your main focus is on future of collaboration, future of working together, future of work in general as the meta topic, but that's not how you began. You have such a diverse and interesting career. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I've actually had 3 different careers, so it might add a little bit to my age and give a bit away in that sense. So I actually studied hotel management. I grew up in a family with very small hotels, and then it was very natural for me to study that. And then I spent 15 years in the hotel industry in hotel management. So as a deputy and as a hotel manager. And then actually at a time in life, I decided working Christmases, Easter, every evening, every weekend was not conducive to a social life. And I then moved into retail management for about 5 or 6 years. And then finally I moved into IT. So I joined the Big Red. Again, for a little bit more ease on time on the weekends. So, and there we are, I've done another 18, 20 years in that. So in that, you've added up that I'm actually 21. Yes, you know, it's easy to move across careers in the sense that leadership's a behaviour and it's an attitude. So I think you can take your skills from one industry to another and apply what your energy and what you've got and your learning capabilities and really optimize that. And it's actually quite interesting. The one thing I'd say is you do find that you do need to change things regularly. So to be in the same job for 15 years could be somewhat challenging once you've done these switches. So it's good to look around and try different things. So and I've
absolutely.
Yeah.
And now you're going on your own. So you have started your own company together with your husband, the Kusch Consulting. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, he's very much doing his own leadership activities and transformational projects in his financial areas. So if he'll probably join us later, he might expand on that a bit, awesome. Maybe if you ask him. But from my side, I'm still very much focused on global collaboration, virtual work. And as you know, at the moment, with the whole world stuck at home, it's a big topic, and it's interesting to read the challenges that people are having, hearing what people are saying. A lot of it's actually not new. From my perspective, what is new is the psychological challenge of being forced to be at home rather than having the choice. But other than that, I think it's business for me. The working virtually topic is very much business as usual, but for more people. So it's an interesting time.
Absolutely. I mean, look at this. It's like a good situation within a bad situation. So most people trying to do the best out of this Corona shutdown situation, like also we did at the Mind Shift. But also, as you've just mentioned, being forced behind these screens. What kinds of challenges do you see? And especially, have you seen like behavioral? I will call them weirdnesses that people do often that you think, you know, these 3 things or 2 things you should not do, or just leave it.
I think I wouldn't like to elaborate too much on people's weirdnesses online, but I would say that with virtual work, a lot of the challenges that people are really facing is the length of the days that people are doing. I think there's a sense that people take on too much. At the beginning, of course, there's a lot of excitement. I can stay at home. I can keep my pajamas on the bottom with a shirt on the top. I can eat off my own dining table. I can plug in. I can put the laundry on. I can answer the door, etc., etc. So those are all little luxuries. But those little luxuries soon wear off, as we know when we eat chocolate every day. It's not fun after 6 or 7 days. But you know, you do need to create a little bit of structure around it. And I think a lot of people have allowed themselves to get up in the morning, switch their laptop on, immediately start, and find themselves still sitting in their pajamas all day, working at their laptop without giving themselves the necessary movement, physical movement, the time, the space, and the division between home life and work life. So I think I wouldn't call that necessarily weird, but I would call it challenging for people to adapt. So you do need to create some proper structure for that. Another thing, weird it might feel, is to create social space with the social coffee times. I mean, you're very good at that. I see that in your events, but having, you know, the social chats with people at the beginning of events, keeping the voices open so you can talk socially, taking time out especially for that is really important when you have this virtual work, because whilst it at the beginning seemed very relaxing, over time it's become much more intensive for a lot of people, that you feel you're kind of confined to a very small space with a lot of intensity to deliver more, to be present more. And, you know, whilst in the office, you might go to get a coffee and your boss is not chasing you. At home, they expect you to be, or it feels like they expect you to be available all of the time. Certainly for leaders that are not used to leading the whole team virtually. So there is a learning within those teams to adapt to this new working model and really addressing that, you know, and you have to find your way within a team, and that's very much leadership driven, you know, and you need to have the opportunity to speak up and bring those things to the table.
Yeah,
accept the differences in people's lifestyles, having
you're
dogs,
right,
kids, having elder parents or whatever around.
You're totally right. It seems much more challenging to really have your voice and speak up, especially in these Zoom and, you know, all sorts of different chat rooms. But before moving into more detail about, you know, life behind computers, and work behind computers, we also need to talk about food and what are you going to prepare, and what are your ingredients?
My ingredients. I'm going to confuse you a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so the foundation topic of my ingredient starts with a potato. That's the story of the ingredients. However, now I'm going to really spin the ball, because my ingredients is it's Friday. Let me just make a point. We discussed this earlier. I will actually make this point. It's Friday, and Friday in our household is gin and tonic day. And it's actually not Friday, it's gin and tonic day. And then late in the afternoon, and today it's very late, we generally have a gin and tonic in our household. And so mine is going to be a gin and tonic. So I have a gin, and I have a little secret, a piece of sliced frozen lemon, because I freeze my lemons. So they're all ready and you don't have to do them. Yeah. And then I'm going to serve myself this William Chase British gin.
Oh, what kind of a gin is that?
That is fabulous. There's a lovely story behind that, and that's related to the potato. So I'm gonna do a little.
Yes, please go ahead.
Small measure. So there's the lemon. That's quite a large measure, but I won't drink it now. I'll drink it. And then I'm going to have a Thomas Hendry tonic, which is my sugar kick for the evening. And I actually will finish this drink a bit later on, but that's actually my recipe for tonight. But as I said, it's all about the potato in the beginning, which is somewhat confusing, isn't it?
Wait, yeah, tell me the connection again with the potato.
You know, it's a fabulous entrepreneur and leadership story, and this is why I loved it, and it's actually why I picked that gin tonight, because it was always going to be a gin and tonic thing. When you said Friday, I thought it has to be gin and tonic. Therefore, I can't sit in the kitchen, so I'm sitting in the dining room, but you know, it worked out quite well. So I wanted to tell you the story about William Chase, which is this gin. William Chase is a 60-year-old entrepreneur in the UK, and he was a potato farmer. And he was farming for a lot of the big shops like Marks and Spencer's, Waitrose, and all the big shops. And then he got so many regulations applied to him about the size and the shape of potatoes. Mr. Simple Potato Farmer got completely fed up with the whole potato farming industry. And so he took a year off and he traveled the world, and he decided that with all of those small potatoes, he wanted to make potato chips.
Okay.
So he traveled the world and he explored all the best chips in the world, and he developed one of the best crisp brands, chips, potato chips or crisps, whatever you call them, crisps if you're English, in the world, called Tyrrell's. You might have heard of Tyrrell's chips.
Oh.
He developed the brand Tyrrell's chips. So he went from potato farming to selling potatoes to a thing, to developing the best potato chips, one of the best potato chips in the world. And it became such a successful business that where does the gin story come in? You're asking yourself. He became so successful with his chip story that he was in a meeting one day discussing meetings, and he sat there and he thought, that's it, I've had enough of this. I do not want to spend my life sitting in meetings, discussing meetings. Sod it, I'm going to do something else. So he went off and he developed a gin brand, which is
awesome.
a gin brand. And he's actually also now done a vodka brand. And the good thing about it's got obviously juniper berries in it and apples and lots of spices. So I love the story about a potato farmer now producing what is an absolutely pure, on its own pure, also delicious gin. So that's my little potato story.
And I love that British tie
on it. You know, it's one of the best things that came out of Britain. We keep it here. let's
really, really awesome. Yeah. Well, you know, similar to you.
Yes, cheers.
I have a Lillet rosé spritz. So you take some Lillet rosé. You chill it. Mine does not have an awesome story as yours, although Lillet seems to be a very, very old drink from the 19th century. But for some reason, this is one of my first encounters. You know, I just tried it once or twice, and I was like, this is actually delicious. So I decided to buy a bottle. And then you have the tonic water.
Lobsters.
Although this says lobsters, it's Austrian.
Is it? Wow.
Yes. So it's produced in Austria. Nice. And then you take some lemon.
Fantastic.
And actually, wait, you're going to laugh at this.
Oh, God. What is it?
I have a big bottle.
Oh, interesting. And it's full, not for long.
Well, Karen, cheers, my friend.
Buddy. Cheers.
Excellent. So after the slight detour, it's the heart of our show, but usually it does not take this long to talk.
Okay, I'm very sorry about that.
Because I have so many more questions.
Potato farmer.
I have so many more questions I want to ask you, but I also want to give people the possibility to ask you questions. And for that, we have a Slido channel for tonight's show. If you guys have any questions on future of work and how to behave in front of and behind the screen, ask your expert here, Karen. Our email code is 42790, 42790. We're expecting your questions. You have only 10 more minutes to go. Well, Karen, so we have talked about the disadvantages of, being continuously tied with these screens and the psychological differences. But do you also see some advantages in this?
There are definitely advantages. If you create a framework and boundaries to do it well, you can definitely get a lot more productivity. You don't need to travel unnecessarily. It's very good for the environment. You can actually manage your lifestyle and work within the framework that works for you. I'm a very early riser personally, so I'm somebody who would rather get started at 6 in the morning and not 9. And providing you're not doing, right at the end is the same. I think you can actually get a lot more benefits out of working this way. But again, the social interaction is important, but you can, when you know people, it is easy to do social interaction remotely. In the past, I've recruited several people in India and South Africa remotely. I never even met them before I hired them, built up the relationship with them, worked with them for very many months before I actually met them. In some cases, a bit longer than that. And it worked very well. And I've delivered a lot of things virtually with a virtual team over a lot of years, and it is possible to do it.
What is your secret? I mean, there must be something, because not everybody is able to kind of ignite this kind of relationship work if you're behind the screens or, you know, doing remote work all the time? How do you align teams in such cases? What are your secrets?
I mean, virtual leadership is something to be considered. It's not the same as presence leadership. You're very much leading by trust, not authority. You need to empower people to do things. You need to provide clear processes and roles for people within the team. You absolutely need clear deliverables, that people know who's delivering what, so several aren't doing the same thing. You need to create environments where people can either collaborate socially online in time or on documents online. 100% transparency. I think that's probably one of the most difficult things for virtual leaders, because some people tend to be more extrovert than introvert, and virtual work, whilst an introvert will deliver more in a virtual world, an extrovert will make probably more noise in a virtual world. And so it doesn't necessarily mean the noisiest and most productive or the other way either, but you do need to create space and time for everyone, you know, so it's a very important factor in virtual work, and the leadership is really driving that, you know, so it's an important point, and leaders really need to take that on.
I think you have really spoken about some very, very important points, including, you know, the structure, trust rather than authority. And I think those are super important points and things to really, you know, deep dive in, especially when considering one's own leadership style in the virtual world. We already have a question here for you.
Okay.
It looks like one of the advantages. You're gonna laugh when I say the question loud. Have problems like harassment or bullying receded since we work online?
Oh, you know, I think there's several answers to that. So I think in a controlled environment where you work, where you have a trusted environment around your topics, where you're sharing within a team, I would say that providing you have transparency, supportive leadership roles and responsibilities, I would say that bullying and those things are less. However, in the wider world of social media, I don't think anybody would expect me to say anything other than it's very transparent that bullying and online intimidation is paramount, and it's not necessarily directed at people individually, but it is the behavior of some people, and they just want to do that, and they do it for clicks, for likes. There's a whole thing behind it. I don't completely understand all of it, but I know that some people just want the clicks, so they put the nasty stuff out to get the clicks, to get the responses. The responses give them more clicks, and they're probably selling behind the scenes on products, or I don't know, but I think it's trusted environment good, less trusted environment not. I think my husband's getting thirsty for a gin and tonic as well, so I would just say that. he may not be joining me if I don't point that out, because we normally have a gin and tonic around 6.
Oh wow, look at him.
There he is. He's got his top hat.
I came prepared.
Awesome to see you. Well, please let me introduce Chilo as well to the show. So this is the, Entrepreneur's Kitchen bombing by husband, Mr. Chilo Kusch. He's a financial expert, a long-year top manager in different companies, and now together with his wife, Karen, they are running Kusch Consulting. So what do you think? How about remote work for you? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, to basically continue to what Karen was saying, I think, let me turn it upside down. I think this whole Corona also was a fantastic trigger to rethink how we manage. Because there were trends going on anyway in leadership where we say, oh, we should, trust more in a very fast changing environment. We need to change our leadership style. But many companies struggled with this. But I think this shock to the system, I think brought it up to the fore. And I think it reinforces all the things what Karen has managed is that if you are in a uncertain environment, you need to have a different leadership style. You need to rely more on the creativity of each of the employees, and you need to give room for this, because often you just don't know. Where in traditional companies, you know, it was expected the top management knows where to go and tells everybody to go, and then it's happening, and that doesn't work anymore.
And Karen, I mean, when we think about it, we know each other for such a long time now, and you have always been someone who said, you know, trust, leadership style, these things, collaboration, remote collaboration, particularly because if you're in a global company, in a global environment, you no longer have like single markets, but you're addressing the global audience mostly if you want to truly, you know, succeed and be a global player. So now all of those things you have been predicting, you have been advocating, became reality suddenly. I mean, it's kind of sad that Corona has been driving this, but what's your point on this?
You know, it's been very interesting for me to watch it, because I've watched for years companies talk about the fact externally they've been doing it, and actually coronavirus proves that they have not been doing it, because they now realize what it actually means. The good news is that, you know, if you've got a Ferrari on the drive and a Mini, and you've got the keys for both, which car do you take? You know, you take the one you want, but if you take the keys away, you take the one with the keys, you know. So and at the end of the day, when you took away the opportunity for people to be present, they had to work virtually, and they very quickly adapted to it. And I think it shows you, you know, you can throw a boomerang and people change fast. You know, and I think it does make you realize that companies need to be braver in changing some of these systems and processes that they have to change the future of the way that we work. And this is really a good lesson, and I really hope a lot of companies continue to progress on it and provide. I mean, you can see a lot of companies, and I can't name particularly the ones that have done it, but a lot of them, I think some in Germany have already said that their staff can work from home for the next whatever. Some of them have done full time, they can work from home all the time. Some need to be present. They still have the opportunity to go, but
Awesome. I actually, to that end, just a very interesting question came in. I just want to make a short intro to this question because I understand it the way I'm going to frame it now. So it says, you know, one of the most important ingredients of any business is the human encounter. And sometimes the best encounters are the ones that are serendipitous. So you just, you know, you're in a hallway and you meet someone and you just get into conversation and things that are really interesting occur. And in the business context, of course, you know, these places of serendipitous meetings are conferences, fairs, etc. So the question says, how do you guys manage to meet new people when you cannot travel or go to conferences? I think that's a great question.
Well, it is a great question, but I think all of us can answer that ourselves, because most of us look for new people online, in the networks that we're in the topics that we're in. We follow the key things that the people that we respect follow. We dip into those things. We connect with those people. And I think that's how we connect. I mean, I believe that I meet more people now through online activities than I do in person. Yeah, of course, there is nothing to replace that feeling when you see the four eyes. Nothing to replace that feeling when you can hug, which you can't at the moment anyway, but even, you know, actually just see people is a wonderful thing. So I think that we're all doing this stuff online. It's becoming really second nature to all of us.
How about you, Chilo?
Yeah, no, I was about to say, because I mean, there's another aspect to it. It's this kind of standing on the coffee machine, having a chat with somebody and suddenly getting really good information or really good business discussion going. And this you can only somewhat replace, you know. And I kind of, well, what Karen actually recommended me to do, what I did is I did a kind of 3 times a week coffee morning with my team. So you kind of intentionally create an environment where you meet and where then suddenly things go off, or not off, but go in a certain direction, and you suddenly have a very good business discussion as well. But obviously it is different, you know, but you can somewhat replace it. And you put more intentional effort on talking to people, you know, or what I found is that in these times, people are also more open to recommend other people. Oh, you should talk to this person, and everybody seems to have a different openness to talk to people because everybody is missing that physical, accidental contact, so to say.
Yeah, and I know for years when I had a colleague who was in South Africa and I had other team members that were with me in the Bonn office, on the way to work, every morning I would ring her for a social chat. So that was my social chat with her every morning on the way to work. So when I got in the office, I would have it with the team there, but with her, I would have it on the phone. And you need to make that, create those spaces and do that. And I think once you've built the foundation of a relationship up, and you're using the tools like WhatsApp or video messaging, or you know, these little voice messages you can send very easily, it's working, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, I think one very important ingredient is that you should actually like people.
Yeah.
It helps.
Well, what are your other 3 ingredients before going to the joke section for spicing up your lives?
For spicing up our lives. Oh,
That's a question.
do you know, I hadn't prepared an answer for that.
Oh, well.
3 additional ingredients for spicing up my life. Well, do we need that in a business context or a social context?
whatever you find more appropriate.
Have you got 3 ingredients? I'll put the ball in your corner.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's I think as limited as it goes, we do try it, and because in this you do actually have more time at home. You know, we can also sometimes meet some people. We have a bubble, so to say, during the week, because they're all around. You know,
Yes.
usually during the week you can't get anybody because everybody's traveling somewhere. And we do actually make an effort to invite people. You know, it's always a same group of whatever 10 or 15 friends.
The door's always open, the gin is always there. You know, that is our philosophy, really. Yeah. So,
And
our goal is always to build a longer table. You know, that is the philosophy of how we like to live. Is, you know, have a longer table, invite more people. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really lovely. I've been to those long tables. Well, guys, so it's 3 minutes before we end, and so do you collectively now tell one joke, or does each one of you have a joke? Oh, you're British humor, yes. No
sarcasm, because the sarcasm is something that is lost on a lot of people. So a lady goes to the doctor and she says, "Doctor, help me, I'm addicted to Twitter." And the doctor replies, "Sorry, I don't follow you."
Oh, I think
is that dreadful?
That's perfectly fitting for tonight's discussion. Well, I have one. I tried like 5 or 6 different jokes on my husband tonight. All of them went terrible. But one of them was like, okay. So I'm going to tell you that one. Why did the boy throw the butter out of the window?
I have no clue.
To see the butterfly.
Oh, you couldn't do that in German, could you? Schmetterling.
Well, you know, I love these silly jokes, but
yes.
I also know, Karen, I mean, although you said, you know, spicing up the mind immediately was not the question, but when we prepare these shows, I, from time to time, also ask people whom I know they have really something profound to say. I always ask them, what are the 3 ingredients you guys believe that we need more in the world?
Empathy, for me, is very important. Kindness, and honesty. They're the 3 things that I would say. I don't know what yours are. They would be the same. Yeah. And for me, and I do believe we experience it definitely in our own neighbourhood, because I think with all the global issues in the world at the moment, one has a tendency, and I personally, and we both did, focus much more on our neighbourhood. And in the beginning of coronavirus, there were definitely some situations prior to coronavirus where we had a couple of little issues with neighbours, but we were able, with the coronavirus thing, to really offer our hand out and offer help and support and kindness to our neighbours, and it completely changed the environment in which we live. We go out the door, everyone's very friendly. We're texting this morning about, do you want some plants? And it's wonderful. And I think if you can take these opportunities and be kind and understanding, I think the world could be a much better place. And for me, that local focus is where you get it, because you can't change the world. You know, you can only change yourself, you know.
Well, which is the beginning to changing the
Exactly.
world.
Yes,
That's how you start
exactly.
to change the world, isn't
Yeah,
it? Start with yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I think this was really a beautiful note to end on. I want to thank you, Karen. From the bottom of my Karen, from the bottom from my bottom of my heart.
Cheers.
Cheers. So no more silliness. Thank you guys both so much, Chilo, and thank you also for preparing the gin and being in the show. Please stay in the line.
We will.
For the after show party. Beautiful people of the internet. This was Friday night, a live show at the Entrepreneur's Kitchen, boiling hot here in Salzburg. We are looking forward to seeing you next week at the Entrepreneur's Kitchen on Friday Night Live. You will have more information and more interesting conversations about compensation, which is a very, very interesting topic nowadays, with Michael Kramasch, who is the head of HKP Group. And I'm looking forward to that show as well. And thank you for tuning in tonight. And bye-bye. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.